And now let's begin with the top stories making the rounds on the show for today. We'll start with fuel scarcity, where the federal government has raised a 14-man panel to end fuel scarcity. The federal government met with operators in the midstream and downstream oil sector as part of measures towards developing strategic stock for premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, in key locations across the country. It said the national strategic stocks would help in addressing the recurring fuel scarcity in Nigeria, as it also announced the constitution of a 14-man committee to find a lasting solution to the disruptions in the supply and distribution of petroleum products. The Executive Director, Distribution System, Storage and Retailing Infrastructure, Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Obugo Ukoha, disclosed this in Abuja on Tuesday at the ongoing Stakeholders Consultation Forum on Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulations. Speaking on the sidelines of the event, he explained that the NMDPRA and stakeholders were going through the 8 draft regulations, which were the 3rd batch put together by the authority, adding that the National Strategic Stock Regulations was one of them. And moving on now, we have the Nigerian Exchange Limited has announced the listing of Africa Infra Plus Fund, a 20.5 billion naira closed-end infrastructure fund, on the exchange on Tuesday, 24 January 2023. AIPF1 structure is a pool of equity and quasi-equity investments in carbon plus infrastructure projects that promote sustainable development, including but not limited to roads, power, water supply, wastewater management, ports and airports. The fund also acquires the shares and other investment instruments issued by socially responsible entities carrying out infrastructure business or executing infrastructure projects exclusively. AIPF aims to address the imbalance between the need for infrastructure development and the concerns about environmental and social impact by investing in projects that meet strict ESG criteria. The Edo Modular Refinery has finally received its first crude feedstock for production 2 years after it was initially scheduled to commence operations. The modular refinery can produce 50% of diesel at 500,000 litres, 25% of naphtha at 300,000 litres, and 20% of low-pour fuel oil (LPFO) at 200,000 litres. Quote, the plant is ready to receive products and it's ready to receive crude oil. They have done the pre-commissioning with the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, which has certified the refinery okay, end of quote. At the time, the managing director of the Edo Modular Refinery, Tim Jian, also said the facility was ready for production. Although the federal government is refurbishing the Port Harcourt, Kaduna and Warri refineries, the federal government has said it is important to also develop modular refineries. Earlier in January 2023, the federal government announced that it had acquired shares in the 12,000 barrels per day Azikul Modular Refinery in Bayelsa State, the 5,000 barrels per day Watersmith Modular Refinery in Imo State, and the 2,500 barrels per day Jopo Modular Refinery in Edo State. Moving on, the Nigerian government has given primary lending institutions, PLIs, a 72-hour ultimatum to release modalities for the disbursement of the 350 million Cabotage Vessels Finance Fund, CVFF. This was disclosed by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, through its DG, Dr. Bashir Jamal, after a meeting with the banks on Tuesday. The primary lending institutions involved are Zenith, Polaris, United Bank of Africa, Jay's and Union Bank. The managing director of Jay's Bank, Dr. Siraju Salisu, raised concerns regarding the risks involved on the part of the bank, saying, quote, whatever it is that we need to do in terms of structure and interest rate will be carried out. But the most important thing here is to ensure that this succeeds, end of quote. The Cabotage Vessels Finance Fund, CVFF, was introduced in 2004 from 2% deductions from every contract value awarded under the cabotage regime. Ship owners are expected to access it in order to afford the purchase of new vessels and at the same time maintain the existing ones. These are the stories we're tracking at this hour. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll have more for you. Stay with us. We'll be right back.